Dobra, widzowie, przeciekawy film. Jest kanał Fobia, który pokazuje listę i tutoriale w zasadzie do glitchy w danych grach. Jest materiał o Elden Ringu, jest też materiał o DLC, więc jak nam się spodoba, jak wam się spodoba, to oczywiście możemy sobie to rozszerzyć o DLC, ale na razie film o podstawce Elden Ringa 36-minutowy, więc polecam popcornik, kawusie lub wiesz coś tam, nie? Oglądamy. Zobaczmy, jak Eldena da się popsuć, a może sobie ułatwić, a może coś tutaj podłapie, podwęszę do swoich ranów, bo kilka rzeczy z nich korzystam, choćby skip do Radana, prawda? Nie wiem, czy to tutaj się łapie w ogóle w kategorii rozważań tego filmu. Obczajmy.
It's been a year since the release of Elden Ring,
Napisy wam
and in
odpalę.
that time, I've been doing continuous research and testing to find out what exploits are possible in the lands between. The problem for me, of course, has been that Elden Ring inexplicably became the most popular FromSoft game ever made. As you know, games with more active players get more
Tutaj miał pokazane, że 20 milionów sprzedała, w tym momencie sprzeda już 30 milionów. Elden Ring sprzedał się chyba w większej ilości kopii niż cała trylogia Dark Souls razem. To jest trochę pojebane, jak o tym pomyślisz.
I've been forced to restart this video over and over again because each time I thought I was onto something, a major glitch would get patched, requiring a complete reroute from the beginning. Pegasus glitch, gone. Chainsaw
Sad.
glitch, gone. Zips. I wanna die. Despite how many things
Bardzo dobrze, że zipów nie ma. Zipy są pierdolnięte. Nie wiem, czy pamiętacie, czym są zipy. Były bardzo popularną taktyką speedrunnerską i pozwalały skrócić tak naprawdę czas speedrunu do 3 minut. Jeżeli idealnie się ustawiłeś, wycelowałeś w dobry piksel i chyba blokowałeś, przemieszczałeś, to dało się po prostu steleportować.
don't work on patch 1.08.1, I finally reached a point where I'm confident that what remains in the game now will likely remain in the game forever. And in fact, I think you'll be surprised by how exploitable current patch truly is. So,
Oho.
hop in your Honda and let's break Elden Ring.
Lecimy.
This video is sponsored by manscaped.com.
Świetnie, że można golić jaja. Dobra, ekstra. Akt pierwszy. Breaking and entering.
Our goal this time around is pretty cut and dry. Defeat the final boss, become Elden Lord. So any glitches that would expedite that process are fair game. To start off, we pick the Confessor as our starting class because it looks the coolest and literally no other reason, and defeat the Grafted Scion just to show it who's boss. The Scion drops the Ornamental Straight Sword, which is actually two swords that... Oh. God, this weapon is terrible.
No, jest tragiczna.
I swear to God, you spend 3 hours making new characters to try to look cool on the internet, and your reward is worse than your starting weapon. You know what? Screw Miyazaki, I'm making Pokemon videos from now on. Once we're in Limgrave, we grab Torrent from Malenia, then head up the ravine to Murkwater Cave to take out Bloodyfinger Nereus
Reduvia.
for the Reduvia, a dagger with excellent bleed buildup.
Reduvia jest absurdalna i dzisiaj się o tym przekonałem. Dla widzów z YouTube'a warto przypomnieć lub powiedzieć po prostu, że przed chwilą skończyłem rana only noże w podstawce i było to ciekawe doświadczenie, ale faktycznie Reduvia wydaje się jedną z bardziej broken broni w ogóle w grze, a co dopiero nóż.
Which isn't going to become our main weapon, but will come in handy soon. We need to go to Murkwater anyway to meet up with Patches. So first steal his laundry, and then give him a little tickle until he decides he wants to be friends.
I surrender. White flag and all.
Buy a few pickled fowl feet, and we're good to leave. You can live, Patches. This time. We actually aren't going into Stormvale ever in this playthrough. Instead, we head east toward the Third Church of America where... Oh, hold on.
Nigdy nie idzie do Stormvale Castle do Godrika? Ciekawe. Jaki jest
Okay,
plan?
right. So as I was saying, we're going east to the Third Church of America to pick up the Physic Flask, and then
Fajnie
take the
zrobiony ten
Waygate to
film.
Dragon Barrow hidden in the bushes just outside. This teleports us outside the door of the Bestial Sanctum. You can probably guess what we're doing next. Following the path south, we touch the grace at Len's Rise, and then during the
Kawaleria.
night, head back to the bridge we just
Tak.
crossed in order to fight the Knights Cavalry for
I mamy
runes.
pierwszego glitcha.
Well, fight
Znaczy
is a
glitcha,
strong word.
cheesa.
By leading it around the right side of the bridge and then waiting for its jump attack move, it will fall out of bounds by itself, giving us a clean 42k before rune buffs like the Foulfoot or Golden Scarab that could obviously take it higher. Next, take the Spirit Spring behind Len's Rise to reach the upper cliff with the graveyard to pick up a ton of poppable runes, then
Z tego
continue south of
korzystam.
the next Spirit Spring just
Wszystkiego
ahead
tak naprawdę
to
do
reach
tej
the grace
pory.
at Fort Faroth. Right next to the Grace is Elder Dragon Grail,
Z tego również
a
korzystam.
boss that doesn't fight.
Piękna sprawa. Polecam każdemu, jeżeli zaczynacie sobie rany w Eldenie i chcecie dobrego startu, no to właśnie zabić kawalerię i pójść na tego smoka. Kilka minut, a dobre kilkadziesiąt, ponad 100 tak naprawdę tysięcy run można tutaj zgarnąć. I jeszcze jest opcja ruszającego się smoka na moście zarąbać. On daje chyba koło 100 koła albo 100 koła. Jego trzeba zbagować na drzewie, może będzie to tu pokazane. Mam nadzieję. Również fajna sprawa, ale trochę więcej czasu trzeba poświęcić.
Back, but has, well, just a billion HP. This is what we brought the Reduvia for.
A, to dlatego
I know if
robię.
you made it to this video, then you've seen this before, but by abusing the bleeding mechanic, we can have Grail lose a percentage.
No i widzisz, to nie jest do końca optymalne, jakby tak to przeanalizować, bo wziął konfesora, dlatego że ładnie wygląda, że jest cool klasą, jasne, zgadzam się, ale samuraj sprawdziłby się lepiej, bo nie musiałbyś iść po Reduwie, tylko miałbyś już Uchigatane z krwawieniem.
Of her max HP every time it procs, allowing us to take her out in a fraction of the time it would take by doing pure chip damage at our level. I'm not considering this a glitch, but it is a great source of early runes for a new character. By popping a golden foul foot before we get the last hit,
złota łapka
Grail will
koniecznie.
drop a whopping 97k, meaning that we already have over 130,000 runes to spend on leveling up. I do exactly that to give us these health, magic, and stamina bars, which is all we're going to need for the entire playthrough.
Co ty gadasz?
With the
Oho,
housekeeping taken care of, we can begin our actual game plan. Our next destination is Liurnia, back to the west.
smoka
On the
wywalone.
way, we stop at the War Master's shack and kill Bernal, the Ash of War merchant, for the Devourer's
Bardzo
scepter
spoko, że ten film jest zrobiony w formie po prostu playthroughsa, bardzo popieprzonego prawdopodobnie.
he drops. Once again, not a weapon we actually plan to use, but an important tool in our kit for later. We take the path along the side
Po
of
co ten
Stormvale Keep
scepter?
in order to reach Liurnia without fighting
Oho.
Margit or Godric, then head north along the lake to pick up the key to Raya Lucaria, hidden behind the Glintstone Dragon.
To ważna rzecz, o której dużo ludzi nie wie. Z Margitem ani z Godriciem nie trzeba się bić na starcie. Możesz sobie przebiec obok zamku, pójść do Liurni, nawet pójść do Altusa, pójść do wulkanu i dopiero potem z nimi walczyć.
While we're in the area, we can also make our way into Caria Manor to fight the spirit form of Loretta.
Znaczy,
Once
nawet
again,
potem nie musisz z nimi walczyć. W zasadzie jesteś w stanie zabić Morgota, nie zabijając Margita. Nawet nie wiem, czy nie było takiej interakcji, że jak zabijesz Morgota, to Margita nie ma. Ale pewności tutaj nie ma.
you won't be fighting her in the true sense of the word. Normally, when you quit the game inside of a boss room, you are ejected back outside the entrance when you load back in, and the boss returns to full health. However, by heading to the left side of the arena after we trigger the fight with Loretta, and walking specifically into this corner in
Uh-huh.
the back, we can cheat this system. For some reason, this one specific corner is not flagged as being part of the boss room.
Nie
So we
gadaj.
aren't ejected back outside of the fog gate when we load back in.
A to jest przeciekawe. To jest bardzo przydatna informacja potencjalnie, że na tej arenie akurat ten róg nie liczy się jako boss arena, możesz z niego wyjść, wejść i jesteś na arenie bossa, ale boss nie jest triggerowany, no bo nie przeszedłeś przez foga.
Loretta is now waiting for us to pass through the fog in order to trigger her AI, but since we're already inside the arena, she simply won't fight back at all,
Free kill.
allowing us to defeat her for a few extra runes with
Pierwszy
no
glitch.
risk whatsoever.
Sensowny. Loretta
I'm
Freeze.
genuinely amazed this still isn't patched. Beating Loretta here doesn't actually help us progress in any way, besides a few level ups, but we will be making a callback to this glitch a bit later on in the playthrough, so I wanted to make sure you're aware of how this AI exploit works. Getting back on track, we can now take the key we picked up from behind the dragon to Raya Lucaria in order to make it inside. We go past the mages and marionettes deeper into the school until reaching the rotating elevator, taking it all the way down to the bottom of the cavern where the Iron Virgins are waiting.
Żelazna
As you
dziewica.
may know
Podróż
already,
do
if you
wulkanu.
are killed by an Iron Virgin in this location, they will take you all the way back to Volcano Manor, which, in terms of the game map, is a massive teleport. At
To
this point,
prawda,
you could run
choć możemy dostać się w inny sposób, ale wymagałoby to też dostępu do Altusa, bo możemy zrobić questa Rai. Jeżeli zrobimy questa Rai, która znajduje się w Liurni, dajemy jej naszyjnik od krabowego gościa krewetkowego, tam krabowego whatever, no to ona da nam zaproszenie do wulkanicznego dworu. Jeżeli mamy dostęp do Altusa, to ona na początku zaraz za pojechaniem windą będzie stała i czekała, żeby nas tutaj tepnąć. No ale właśnie, my z poziomu Akademii możemy tepnąć się do wulkanu, co jest sporym skipnięciem jednak.
through the entirety of the area to reach Volcano Manor proper and talk to Lady Tanith to join the Covenant. But even then, you still won't have access to the rest of Mount Gelmir because the front entrance of the manor is locked from the outside.
A właśnie.
If we were to proceed the normal way instead, you'd soon realize we aren't even close to beating this ridiculous boss, so as of right now, we're kinda stuck. What we really need is a way to teleport to the exterior of Volcano Manor. That way we could cross the bridge from Mount Gelmir to Altus Plateau without needing to collect the halves of the Dectus Medallion or to beat the magma worm at the top of the ruin-strewn precipice.
A to jest mega ciekawe. Oj, teraz to mnie zaskoczył. Czyli wykorzystuję podróż do wulkanu po to, żeby dostać do Altusa inną ścieżką niż dwie faktycznie przewidziane przez grę.
Thankfully,
Co tu
there
się
is a
zadzieje?
glitch that can accomplish just that. To set it up, all we need is one grace within Volcano Manor, which if we continue forward from the location where the Iron Virgin dropped us off, will be the subterranean Inquisition chamber. Now, to teleport to the outside entrance of Volcano Manor from here, we need to trigger a wrong warp.
A,
This is a glitch
Warpik.
that has been in FromSoft games since Dark Souls 1.
To jest
And it works
pojebane.
by interrupting the loading of a new area so that the coordinates of your currently loaded area gets combined with the coordinates of the new one it's trying to load. The game will recognize this as an out-of-bounds value, and so instead of loading you into a white void, will load you at the area's default location. This is usually an arbitrary spot like the front entrance of a building or a notable landmark. It just so happens that the default location of Volcano Manor is, you guessed it, the opposite side of the locked door at the entrance. So, how do we interrupt the loading of a new area so that we get the wrong coordinates? It's actually pretty simple in theory. All you have to do is open the map and teleport from a grace in Volcano Manor to a place far away, like, say, the Round Table Hold, then force close the game just as the loading bar hits 100% and before the screen begins to fade to black. On PC, this is a pretty straightforward process.
A, też
Just wait
4.
for the bar to reach the end, then Alt F4. On console, this is a bit more difficult because you need to press the home button and navigate through menus in order to close the game. And on
Zdejmować to trzeba.
PS5, it's the worst case scenario by far because the quick menu covers up the loading bar, meaning you have to do the glitch completely blind. So let's assume you're in this worst case scenario group. How do you pull off the wrong warp if you can't see what you're timing it against? Well, I would love to tell you an exact timing so that you could use something like a stopwatch, but the reality of the situation is that your platform, your patch, the age of your hardware, and even the manufacturer of your storage will all affect your load times. However, finding your specific timing is a lot easier than you might expect. If you fail this glitch, one of two things will happen. Either you'll appear back in Volcano Manor, in which case you force close the game too soon, and the Round Table Hold, in which case you force close the game too late. In either case, you can warp right back to the subterranean Inquisition chamber and immediately try the wrong warp again. Because this glitch has no punishment for failure, and your destination afterwards provides immediate feedback onto how to alter your
Tam
timing for
możesz
the next
dostosować
attempt,
czas.
this glitch ends up being surprisingly easy to
No
reproduce
dobra, ale to jest
on
poradnik na
any
konsolę.
platform.
Kto gra na konsoli, prawda? Nie no.
When
Zbejtowałem
you do
właśnie
manage to hit
fanów
that magical
konsolowego
timing
grania
and the
na
wrong warp is
komentarze. Ja
successful,
pieprzę.
you won't actually know until you start the game again and suddenly find yourself in a place you have never been before, which in our case means we just unlocked all of Mount Gelmir and Altus
Niesamowite.
Plateau. Make sure to open the door to Volcano Manor
To
now.
jest pojebane, że wrong warpy dalej istnieją w grach From Software po 15 latach. Tak, to nie zostały spaczowane, więc można tak to ująć. Od Dark Soulsów 1.
And activate the grace inside. That way we will never need to wrong warp here again. Traveling backwards from Volcano Manor through Mount Gelmir,
Zipy są
we'll eventually
spaczowane.
reach the rope bridge
Kamorty.
that connects to Altus. Now that we're here, we need to stop by the Sainted Hero's
Więc
grave and kill the
już
Black Knife assassin that
przeszłość.
patrols outside for, well, the Black Knife. Believe it or not, this weapon
Ale
is
no były
mandatory
pojebane.
for the future of this playthrough.
Dobra, czekaj. Black
Next we make a
Knife'a
quick pit
bierze.
stop for fashion, and now it's time to go to Leyndell.
Okej.
You might think our next target is the Draconic Tree Sentinel who guards the entrance. And don't get me wrong, I love this boss, but even if we beat him, we're still locked out of the city until we collect 2 or more Great Runes.
No właśnie, 2 Great Runy. Nie zabił żadnego posiadacza Great Runy. Co teraz?
Doing some quick math, let's see, square root of 3 multiplied by 6, carry the 1. We currently have 0, which means that the game expects us to turn around, go back in the direction we came from, and kill Godric, or Radon, or Renala, or Rykard, and like... I don't want to do all that. If only we could just skip all these bosses and teleport
Wrong warp?
directly inside the walls of the city, on the opposite side of this barrier. Yeah, we're gonna wrong warp again. In order for the wrong warp to take us to the default location of Leyndell versus some other place, we need to set up and trigger the wrong warp from a location that is technically already within the walls of the city. This might sound like a paradox, but it's actually a pretty easy condition to meet, though it does require us to take a massive detour from where we are now.
Skrzynka pułapka.
All the way at the bottom of the map, on the southwestern tip of the Weeping Peninsula, is the Tower of Return, a structure that is utterly unremarkable, other than the fact that at the very top lies a booby-trapped chest that will teleport the player to a grace within the city of Leyndell.
No tak.
The platform you're taken to is cut off from the rest of the city, and its only real purpose is to give players a killer view and to get them excited about unlocking and exploring the city properly in the future. However, in terms of our current coordinates on the map, we are technically in the city of Leyndell right now, which means that if we teleport to the
No
round
właśnie,
table
tak
hold
jak
from
mówił, wystarczy jedno ognisko w
here
lokacji.
and force close the game at the right time,
Witamy
we
serdecznie.
skip every boss
Ja
in the first half
pierdolę.
of Elden Ring.
Gość nie zabił żadnego bossa na ten moment. Jest kurwa w stolicy. Akt drugi. Oho. Elden Skip. To jest prawdziwy
Now that
Elden
we're at the
Skip.
city's
Elden
entrance,
Skip
we need to
Ring.
make our way all the way down to the bottom to reach the next area. Speedrunners discovered a quick way to accomplish this very thing. By
Tak.
falling down to this decorative ledge on the right wall, and then jumping down to the roof of this circular building, you can avoid
To
dying
akurat
from fall
znane.
damage and skip playing through all of Upper Leyndell. This skip has been patched on 1.08.1,
Tylko
which was
teraz się
done by
inaczej to
placing an
robi.
invisible barrier in front of the decorative
No, ale spokojnie. Dalej da się zrobić podobną rzecz, tylko jest trudniej. Trzeba wyskoczyć w trochę innym miejscu i je
ledge
zaatakować.
so that you can no longer land on it. Thankfully, an alternative way to perform the glitch has been discovered and still works on current patch. First, you
Trudna
slowly
jest
walk
ta
off the
metoda.
edge of the stairs to land on the corner
Muszę
of
się
the
tego
square
nauczyć
ledge,
kiedyś.
then immediately roll to the right to land on the ledge just below. Next, jump to the left around the column, then walk all the way down the length of the ledge, drop down onto the curved ledge just below, and then immediately drop down again to the straight ledge below that. Finally, sprint and jump backwards to land on the roof of the same building from before, at which point you can drop down to the ground, skipping the entirety of Leyndell in one go.
Piękna rzecz.
Normally, you'd work your way back up from this point to reach the roots of the Erd Tree and fight Godfrey, to then access and fight Morgoth, who guards the door to the Elden Ring.
No właśnie.
But if you're familiar with this game, you'll know that the story kind of dead ends here. Your player character is then rejected by the Erd Tree, and Malenia tells you to go to the mountaintops of the Giants instead. So, why don't we just do that right now?
Tylko
The
trzeba by
entrance to
było
the mountaintop.
zrongwarpować do Mountain Topsów, bo będziemy mieli znowu bramę, prawda?
Is the Grand Lift of Rold, accessed by
Bo
opening
jeżeli nie zabijesz Morgota, to nawet jeżeli jakimś cudem dojedziesz tam do góry, no to brama będzie zamknięta.
the gates at the
Zresztą
bottom
to
of
zaraz
Leyndell,
widać. Miyazaki to
where we
przewidział.
already are, and then following the staircase east and taking the elevator up. However,
No
we are now
właśnie.
faced with another barrier. This one blocks you from reaching the Grand Lift of Rold
Trzeba dostać medalion Rold, żeby to się odblokowało.
until you beat Morgoth, which is what forces veterans of the game who already know the story to climb the roots of the Erd Tree and fight him anyway. In a playthrough where glitches are allowed, we would normally just wrong warp to get past something like this. But in this case,
Nie mamy
both sides
dostępu.
of the barrier are considered to be within the city of Leyndell.
A,
So if we try to wrong warp past it, we will be taken to the default location of Leyndell, which we've already established as being the beginning. So wrong warping's off the table. We gotta get past this thing manually somehow.
jak to zrobić?
While this isn't an easy process, it is possible, and we've actually been preparing for this moment since we chose our starting class.
O kurwa, konfesor jednak miał znaczenie!
You need three things to trigger the next glitch. The Devourer's Scepter, which we got from killing Bernal at the War Master's Shack, the Black Knife, which we got from killing the Black Knife Assassin at the Sainted Hero's Grave, and finally, a weapon with an alternate stance as its skill, like for example, a broadsword with Square Off, the starting weapon of the Confessor class.
Ja pierdolę.
To
Ale ten
start,
film jest
you put the
genialny.
black knife in your right hand, the broadsword in your left, and then two-hand the left-hand weapon so that the left trigger activates Square Off and not the black knife. Now we need to trigger the skills of all three weapons at the same time.
Co?
And to do that, we're going to gently abuse the
Weapon
input
swap.
queue system.
Tak.
Starting at the top of the stairs, face diagonally towards the decorative column in the right railing that does not have a flame burning. Now attempt to summon Torrent, which will fail, then quickly press the left trigger, pause the game, open the equipment screen, and swap the broadsword for the Devourer's Scepter. Once the animation of failing to summon Torrent ends, all three weapon skills will try to activate at the same time, which disables player gravity until it completes.
O chuj! Nie miałem pojęcia, że
Now
to
we've
jest
made it on top of the
możliwe.
railing we were never meant to reach, but we aren't out of the woods just yet. Next, jump up on the railing
Co
just ahead of
chłop
you.
wykminił,
Then from there,
kurwa?
jump up onto the burning platform. Don't worry about the fire damaging you. You were never meant to stand here in the first place. Now we need to jump from this brazier to the next one, and that requires sprinting. We don't have enough room on this platform to begin a sprint, but we can cheat the system by
Szczerze to jest bardziej pojebane niż zipowanie, kurwa. Użycie 3 broni jednocześnie, słapując podczas króciutkiej animacji sięgania po torrenta.
pausing the game, then pressing and holding the back button to close it again. Now when you move forward, since you're already holding down the sprint button, you will instantly be in a sprint and be able to jump the distance. We repeat this process one more time to reach the final platform, then drop down to the left and walk along the ledge of the wall itself until completely rounding the corner. At this point, the ledge you walk on becomes extremely shallow, and if you
Oj.
aren't holding forward into the wall at
Oj.
all times, you will
Close.
slide off.
Ale da
Finally,
się.
sprint jump left to go up and over the railing of the path that leads to the Forbidden Lands, meaning that we are now on the other side of the barrier and have no need to climb to the top of the Erdtree or fight Morgott at all.
O, ty gada.
At this point, we can make our way down the path, take the elevator down to the Forbidden Lands,
To jest chyba najlepszy film o Eldenie, jaki ja kurwa widziałem.
and follow the snowfield all the way down to the Grand Lift of Rold, the only thing separating us from the mountaintops of the Giants.
Normally, you just hold up the Rold medallion given to you by Malenia after defeating Morgott, and the elevator will activate, taking you where you need to go. Problem is, of course, we don't got that.
No
For
właśnie.
this playthrough, both the Grand Lift of Rold and the Grand Lift of Dectus are going to be forever inactive, but this is a much easier problem to solve than you might expect. First, we open the map, teleport to the Round Table Hold, and oh, what's that? Are we wrong warping again? Well,
Możliwe.
gee, it sure would be nice if when we reloaded the game, we were warped to the top of the elevator, because, oh, I don't know. The top of the elevator just so happened to be the default location of the mountaintops of the Yeah, this wrong warping thing seems really OP. Now we can go pretty much anywhere in this area that we want.
Gość jest kurwa 2/3 gry w tym momencie. Nie zabił żadnego
But I
bossa.
had my sights set on one place in particular, that being the Church of Repose. Here we can kill Bloody Finger Okina for a
Okay.
weapon that needs no introduction.
Rewersy, no ta.
Give him your wallet.
Ale po co?
He's got a knife.
Będzie bił Fire Gianta faktycznie?
Knife? That's a knife.
With an actual weapon in our arsenal at this point, we could go east to fight the Fire Giant and be teleported to Farum Azula.
No tak.
But don't forget the requirements of our challenge this run. It's not just to become Elden Lord, but also to beat the final boss. Oh, you thought I meant this final boss? No. I meant the final boss.
Co ty gadasz?
That means that, like it or not, we have to somehow make it to the Haligtree without the use of the Grand Lift of Rold. With that in mind, there's no point in fighting our way through Castle Sol and beating Commander Niall at the top,
No.
because we won't be using the half of the secret medallion he guards anyway. Even still,
Oczywiście, że medalionu nie będziemy kurwa używać.
we are on our way to challenge
pewnie.
Malenia, so it wouldn't hurt to have the big chunk of runes he drops. Thankfully for us, there's an easy way to snatch those without having to go through all the other trouble. Starting from the Grace just outside Castle Sol, summon Torrent and run to the left.
A, tylko to było spaczowane niedawno, jeżeli się nie mylę. Sam z tego korzystałem, jeżeli to jest to, co myślę.
Left around the wall of the castle itself, continuing forward until you are completely behind it.
Tak, bo tu się da spadać w nieskończoność. Nie ma boksa, który ma cię zabić, jeżeli w dobre miejsce spadniesz. I im niżej jesteś, spadasz w tę nicość, tym świat przez render distance i optymalizację przestaje się generować. W związku z czym w pewnym momencie zamek przestaje się generować, a boss spada i umiera.
Once you see the rune graveyard ahead, turn left and then use Torrent to jump off the tip of this rock, delaying your double jump until you see the camera shift to top-down view. If you did it properly, you should be far enough away from the edge of the cliff that you are past the death trigger, meaning you can
Znaczy
fall
przy Mogu da się tak farmić runy w ogóle, ale tutaj ja też to robiłem, żeby właśnie nie bić się z Nilem, bo nie lubiłem tych jego samonów wiele razy bić za każdym challenge'em. Natomiast muszę przyznać, że no właśnie, ten film był zrobiony 3 lata temu. To wiecie, brzmi strasznie, ale po największych patchach i tak, no tylko, że właśnie ta jedna konkretna rzecz została spaczowana. Nie zmienia faktu, że dalej jest dużo sposobów na zabicie Nila, stojąc na przykład na krawędzi zamku poza areną, da się do niego strzelać i tak dalej, więc de facto dalej da się zeszmacić bossa. Powiedzmy, że jest to w konwencji challenge'u.
forever
Ma DLC ziomek na kanale.
without dying. FromSoft games do have a hidden timer that will automatically kill your character if you're stuck in a falling animation for too long, which is mostly there as a failsafe in case you get stuck somewhere and can't touch solid ground. But by continuously attacking while on Torrent, we can reset the falling timer over and over
No tak.
so that we can fall
Dlatego
for
się
a
cały
lot
czas
longer than
atakuje,
we're
no.
supposed to. Eventually, your character will be so far below Castle Soul, the game will begin to unload it from memory. This will remove the floor from underneath Commander Niall without unloading him properly. This means that, though we can't see it, he is falling now as well, and after enough time,
Trzymano. Piękny glitch.
now we simply open the map and warp to any grace with an extra 90,000 runes in the pocket. Anyway, what were we doing?
No tak.
Oh, right. The waygate to the Haligtree is the only way to reach the Haligtree, so wrong warping is once again out. Even still, we aren't stuck quite yet. The consecrated snowfield really is nothing more than the western half of the mountaintops of the Giants, which we already have access to. So all we need is a weak point anywhere along this line that would allow us to sequence break to the west. This is obviously a massive area, and so naturally, one was bound to be discovered eventually. Starting from the ancient Snow Valley ruins side of Grace, summon Torrent, then ride forward, taking a left once you reach the frozen river. Follow it all the way to the end, then jump up, using the absolute edge of the Spirit Spring, and then just as the camera tilts to top-down view, double jump and flick the analog stick diagonal up left at the same time.
No co ty pierdolisz?
If you got the double jump timing and the angle correct, you should have dodged the death trigger, and the Spirit Spring we jumped from will protect us from fall damage. We land out of
dotarłeś
bounds
do tej
safely
lokacji.
in the space between the
Złapało
eastern
cię.
and western halves of the
I jak on
mountaintops of the
wyjdzie z gry, to
Giants.
go zloaduje w
Quit and reload
Consecrated.
now to regain control of the camera, and then follow this path to get back in bounds.
Czy czekaj, dobrze rozumiem, że w zasadzie ten Nil był niepotrzebny i pokazał go dla fanu, bo już się pogubiłem.
Only, when we do so, we will be in the western half of the mountaintops instead of the east, skipping the need to use the Grand Lift of Rold in the first place.
No to.
When you make your way
To
down the
git.
rocks that make up
No,
this wall,
czyli to, że to spaczowali, to dla runów to zrobił.
you will land directly on top of one of the red wolves, so make sure to quickly make your way
Okej,
north
bo
to the
nie-
nearby waygate and teleport
nie
away
zakodowałem
before it
tego,
has
że
a
to
chance to
mówił.
attack you. You will then emerge near the minor Erd tree, facing
Przewidział, że
Lordina,
spaczują.
so all
Geniusz.
you have to do is ride straight forward, solve the short puzzle, and take the teleport at the end to reach the Haligtree, bringing us one step closer to Malenia.
No i co teraz? Tam się dało chyba jakoś spaść do niej na dół? Czy mi się wydaje? Nie wiem, czy dalej się da, ale może pierdolę. Akt
This is
trzeci,
normally an
nielegalne
area that
użycie
requires
broni.
a lengthy descent from the top of the tree down to its roots, passing by powerful enemies and collecting multiple sites of grace along the way.
Ale mnie nos swędzi.
But through the use of one of the more well-known glitches in Elden Ring, we can skip straight to the boss. After
Musiałem
collecting the
podubać.
Haligtree town side of Grace, it's possible to lead one of the enemies backwards, past the Grace, into the corner of this platform. By parrying
Parry?
an attack and then stepping off of the edge as you perform the critical,
Spadnie z nim.
your character will be locked into the riposte animation and therefore immune to fall damage until it completes. Assuming you performed it correctly, you will have landed on top of the shortcut elevator, meaning you can unlock it now to have instant access to the end of the area. Those of you who are veterans of this channel will know that this is a returning glitch
Oj,
first
tak.
discovered in Dark Souls 2. And just like in that game, its usefulness is not limited to a single location. While parry dropping can get you to the bottom of lots of areas in Elden Ring before you're really supposed to reach them,
O
my favorite
właśnie.
use has to be
Tu
skipping the
pamiętam, że to się
obnoxious
używało.
platforming challenge at the bottom of the subterranean shunning grounds for easy access to the three fingers. Once you learn to parry drop here, you will never do it another way, believe me. Regardless, we are now at the end of the Haligtree, and it's time to fight the
Jak mi powiesz, że tak jak na pierwszej lorecie dało się wyjść z areny, wejść z powrotem i boss jest niestriggerowany i akurat znowu uda się to zrobić na lorecie, to padnę.
true, much harder form of Loretta. This is the first boss in the playthrough that we have no way to kill through a glitch or skip altogether.
Oho!
So points to you if you had Loretta as the first boss of the game on your bingo card. I know I did. Just because we do have to fight her straight up doesn't mean that we can't give ourselves a little advantage though. Much like the glitch we use to combine weapon skills to skip Morgott, it's possible to glitch weapon buffs onto non-buffable weapons if they originate from a skill. Case in point, Rivers of Blood shouldn't be able to be buffed since it's a Somber Stone weapon, despite how cool it would be to give it extra bleeding and fire damage from something like Seppuku. But if we put the Ash of War we want on a different weapon, equip that weapon in the left hand, and
Nie
then two-hand that
gadaj.
left-hand weapon, once again, we can break the system. First, you need an empty flask. Any of the three
Buffy
will
na
work, but
kurwa
I'm using the Physic
reversy.
Flask for this example because I kinda need my health and magic. Now try to drink from the empty flask, then hold the left trigger, and at this point in the animation, pause, open the equipment screen, and quickly unequip the weapon in your left hand. Now the game will try to use the queued weapon skill, but is forced to put the buff on the only remaining weapon we have equipped. So, just in case you thought Rivers of Blood didn't have enough bleeding damage already,
A
don't
ładnie to
worry,
wygląda.
we gave it more. As powerful as this glitch can be,
Ile?
don't worry, we gave it more. As powerful as this glitch can be, its timing is frame perfect, meaning that it's much more precise than the gravity glitch we performed earlier. This obviously isn't something we can set up again in the middle of the boss fight, so that means we have 60 seconds to do as much damage to Loretta as possible before the buff runs out and we're back to good old regular Rivers of Blood.
Zobacz jak to
Loretta
krwawienie
is already
wchodzi,
quite
jak
susceptible to bleed,
pojebane.
and the buff is definitely not doing her any favors, so she goes down without too much trouble.
No to tak w zasadzie kurwa ją zgliczował.
With nothing else on our way, it's as simple as sprinting past all of the enemies
Alergia
in
na
Alfeo
nieprzechodzenie
to reach the
dobrze
Haligtree
Eldena.
root side of Grace, also known as the door to Malenia's boss room.
Oho.
So, genuine question. If we tried to fight Malenia right now, at our current level, how do you think it would go?
Nie najlepiej.
Because I'll tell you the answer. Not well. We aren't getting even close to Phase 2, much less beating her, and the fight is so long that buffing Rivers of Blood with seppuku is next to useless. If only there was some sort of glitch that still worked on current patch that could allow a person to beat Malenia at any level, no matter how low, with any equipment, no matter how weak,
Dzięki,
without
dzięki.
her fighting back at all.
The Malenia glitch. Cinema, kurwa. Najlepszy film o Eldenie,
Okay,
jaki
fair
widziałem.
warning. This next glitch is the most difficult one we're doing in this playthrough.
Oho, najtrudniejszy
Each
glitch.
step is fairly simple on its own, but it's got a lot of them. The first step is to get out of bounds of the boss room, and that requires what I like to call the 3 impossible jumps. The first jump is the hardest, and to make it you'll need a seal in either Agheel's Flame or Smaragd's Glintstone Breath. Enter Malenia's boss room and run to the back of the arena until you're walking up against this specific route. By approaching from left to right, you can get your character to sort of pop up a few pixels, which is mandatory to have enough height. Now start sprinting into the route, then quickly jump in this direction toward the larger route within the wall, and use your dragon incantation at the peak of the jump.
Sprytne.
By
Przytrzyma
spamming the
go
jump
to.
button as the animation ends, it's possible to jump up onto the top of the route before your character slides off. Using the sprint queuing technique that we learned from doing Morgott Skip, sprint jump from the root of this larger one just ahead, and use the dragon incantation once again to freeze your character in midair, giving you time to pan the camera
Jebany.
to the left. You can't stand on this route for long before sliding off, so immediately sprint jump left to land on this route. We now have enough height that we can hop forward, and though it may not look it, we are now out of bounds. There's an invisible barrier separating us from Malenia at this point. There is not, however, a barrier separating us from falling to our death, so be very careful how you step from this point on. If you venture too deep into the wall, you will fall right through and die, forcing you to repeat the first 3 jumps over again. Next, walk along the barrier and carefully make your way here. The location I'm standing on now is the very edge of the floor's collision. One more step, and I would fall straight through the floor. From this precarious spot, cue a sprint by closing the pause screen, and jump up to here so that you can continue forward. This part looks scary, but we're actually trapped between 2 barriers on both the left and right side for this section, so it's really just as simple as holding forward and jumping now and then when you get stuck. We continue all the way to the fog gate back at the boss room's entrance and climb as high as we can up this tree before using that height to span the distance of a lengthy jump all the way into the wall that holds the fog gate itself. We worm our way deeper into that wall to then jump up onto the tip of this final route and then face the gray barrier just in front of us. This is the tunnel that leads to Malenia's fog gate when viewed from the wrong side, and by sprint jumping up from the tip of the route, we can get on top of that tunnel, meaning that we are still out of bounds, but we are also finally no longer considered by the game to be within Malenia's boss room. See where I'm going with this? You can safely quit and reload here without being taken back outside the fog gate, resetting Malenia's AI to being passive while preserving our out-of-bounds state.
Musi wrócić.
Now we simply undo the last few steps of the glitch, jumping from the top of the tunnel, down again to the tip of the route, then walking back through the wall, and back up the tree again to gain enough height to jump over the invisible barrier, back in bounds of the boss room.
Ja pierdolę.
Just like the glitch we performed with
Genialne.
Loretta early on in the video, Malenia is now waiting for us to pass through the fog in order to trigger her AI. But we don't need to, because we are already inside. I give you the hardest boss in Elden Ring that will never fight back. Just as a reminder, Everything in this video is being done on current patch, and this glitch is
Jest
no
trochę
exception.
później, ale obstałem, że
If
to
you can
mogło nie
manage
być
to pull off all
spatchowane.
the specific parkour required to get out of bounds of the room,
Ale
you can
mocne,
freeze
kurwa,
Malenia
ile tu rzeczy
in
trzeba
all
było odwalić.
versions of Elden Ring. When you deplete Malenia's health and trigger the second phase cutscene, she will respond with the Scarlet Aeonia attack. But as soon as it ends, she then forgets about you again and just stands there doing nothing. So, nope, phase 2 won't be a problem either. With Malenia down, the hardest part of our challenge is complete.
Ale
Now,
gierka do
about that
przejścia.
tree.
No właśnie.
There's actually a reason we killed Malenia at this point in our playthrough. Her
Miecz
weapon
do
is the final
przedostawania
tool we
się.
need to finish our
No z
glitch
tym
run.
to shorty widzę co chwilę. Akurat ten nasz wór jest genialny do przechodzenia jakoś poza barierami.
With it in our possession, we can finally head to Farum Azula, though of course not the way you're supposed to. I mean, come on, that'd be silly. Instead of getting warped to Farum Azula via Malenia's cutscene, we can wrong warp there right now and skip the fire giant.
Jak to?
But how do we get within the bounds of Farum Azula in the first place in order to warp to its default location? If you've watched any Elden Ring speedruns in the past, you've probably seen this one before, as it saves a ton of playtime. As soon as you make it to Liurnia, you can ride Torrent to the west to unlock the 4
Rongwarp tutaj,
belfries.
to?
This is an optional location that contains 1
Czy
key
nie?
and 3
A
locked
nie!
gates that
Dobra, wszystko jasne. No tak, on zrongwarpuje, dostając się imbued key do Farum Azula, no bo jedna z tych 4 dzwonnic tepa cię tam, ale no nie ma styczności chyba z resztą Farum Azula, ale jak już będziesz w Farum Azula, to da się pewnie
allow
rongwarpnąć.
you to preview either Noxtella, the Chapel of Anticipation, or, you guessed it, Farum Azula. If we take the waygate to Farum Azula, we end up on this little floating island far
Tak.
west of the actual area, but we get the named location pop up on screen, which is all that matters. You know how this works by now. Teleport to the round table hold, quit out at the right time, and restart the game to appear at the beginning of Farum Azula,
Pierdolony.
the same place we would be if we were to kill the fire giant and be taken here authentically. Nothing's really holding us back at this point. We'd run straight through the area, past all the enemies until reaching the first mandatory boss, the Godskin Duo. This is what we needed the Hand of Malenia for. If
Proszę
instead of
zeszmać
entering the
ich.
Godskin Duo boss fog, we walk around it to the right, we end up on this platform that overlooks the Great Bridge, where you can see the entrance of Maliketh's boss room in the distance. The gap between where we are now and the bridge is huge, and the Black Knife is not enough to get us there even if we use the gravity glitch. However, the Hand of Malenia has the longest weapon skill animation in the game, and if we use it to trigger the gravity glitch instead of the Black Knife, and continuously mash the left trigger in order to do the full combo,
Na styk!
make sure to grab the side of grace that lies to the left underneath the bridge,
Jebać
and
go
prepare for the
skinów.
fight with Maliketh up ahead. There's no way to skip this one.
Oho.
Leyndell doesn't become the capital of Ash until we beat Maliketh and trigger the
No
cutscene
tak,
that
bo to nowa
teleports us
mapa się
there.
odpala
So
wtedy.
this fight has to be done the old-fashioned way. First, we perform the skill swap glitch again in order to give us extra bleeding on Rivers of Blood, then step through the fog. The first phase of the fight is actually harder in my opinion than the second. The Beast Clergyman has a lot of extremely fast attacks and methods of dealing chip damage. This
No ale
forces us to
dobra,
disengage
z
and
tym
heal,
damage'em,
which gives time for his bleed
z tym
build-up to
buffem.
recover. Phase 2, on the other hand, has attacks that I think are easier to dodge, and he has more openings for us to deal damage, but getting hit even once is pretty much game over for us, since its attacks are so much more powerful now. This is the first true test of skill in the run, I think. But after a few failed attempts, Rivers of Blood does its job, and Maliketh goes down. With the Rune of Death in our possession, we destroy the capital city, carving a hole to the center
Czyli
of
tak
the Erd
naprawdę bił Loretę i Malikefa i tyle.
tree. Fun fact, since we skipped the fire giant, the Erd tree doesn't actually start burning in our playthrough until this very moment. After beating what is without a doubt the hardest boss in Elden Ring, no question about it, we climb up the roots to reach the Erd tree,
Trzeci
in the
boss.
same arena where we would have fought Morgoth. Now it's occupied by Godfrey, which means he needs to go down next. I actually tried jumping up on the railing and using the gravity glitch to make it into the arena without passing through the fog, which, as we know, causes bosses to never activate properly.
Cutscenka pewnie to
But
psuje.
it seems like FromSoft thought of this and placed an
gnoje.
invisible barrier all around the arena. So as of right now, there is no way to glitch ourselves into the fight with Godfrey, at least on current patch, though there's always the possibility that a new glitch may be discovered later. So that means it's time for Plan B.
Czyli
skill swap our
4
weapon
bossy.
to give it bonus damage, and start doing normal attempts. Godfrey is also a boss with 2 phases, but like a normal boss, his phase 1 is easier than his phase 2. Thankfully, he is susceptible to bleeding fairly easily, he just has a ton of HP, so it ends up being a longer fight than anything we've done previously. Once phase 2 triggers, his attacks become a lot faster,
Dzięki Tamae.
dodge windows get tighter, and there are fewer opportunities to get in for bleeding damage, which means a lot of time gets wasted.
FF7 przed
By the time he
remake'iem
finally goes
trójki,
down,
w sensie
the
trzeciej
buff from
części
skill swapping
siódemki.
with seppuku is long gone, and frankly,
już zapowiedzą.
over half the fight had to be done without it. That leaves nothing but Radagon and Elden Beast, 2 individual bosses that make up the 2 phases of a singular boss
Proszę,
encounter,
zepsuj coś
meaning
tu,
they have to be done
zepsuj.
back to back in the same instant.
Zniszcz tę grę.
That doesn't sound like good news for skill swapping again, and what's worse, Radagon has resistance to all status effects, meaning that we are unlikely to even proc bleeding on him a single time during the fight. Though let's not forget, we are still using Rivers of Blood, and yep, that damage is pretty on brand. We take out Radagon after only a few attempts
Musi
spent
walnąć,
refamiliarizing
okej.
ourselves with the
Piąty
moveset,
boss.
then move on to Elden Beast, a boss that is more of a bullet hell than an actual one-on-one fight. Though it does take a few more tries than I'd like to admit, the Elden Beast goes down, and with our glitch run complete, we are finally able to take our place on the Elden
Okej, to
throne.
musiał być po prostu. Końcówka jest taka, że trzeba już.
If you enjoyed this video and want to see
Ale
more
nie,
glitch
to
playthroughs of
jak on
games
pominął tak naprawdę wszystko do samego końca i tylko endgame taki totalny rozegrał, to jest absolutne arcydzieło. Ja pierdolę, jaki to jest dobry
in
film.
the future, consider clicking the sub button. Did you
Coś
know that this channel
niesamowitego.
only has 1 subscriber? Crazy, I know. So if you want to
Wiesz,
be my
ten film ma 3 lata, a nagrał ten film o DLC też z tej serii. No a to jest już popaczowana gierka solidnie, nie?
second subscriber, make sure you leave a comment saying, I am Mr. Number 2.
Kurde, fenomenalne. Ja pierdzielę. Jakie to jest dobre.